I'd like to tell you about an experiment that happened in 2014 between Virginia and Harvard universities. They took 100 people of different walks of life, and they asked them to do one simple thing: to sit in a room all by themselves in their own silent solitude. Most could not do it. In fact, the experiment went on to see how far people will go to distract themselves from the solitude of themselves to withstand the so-called pain of sitting in the silence of their own self, of their own egoic self. What they did next is they took an electric shock band and put it around their ankle and gave them a little button. And anytime they felt the urge to want to get up and leave the silent solitude of their current environment, they could shock themselves to distract themselves. And it's shocking, to say the least, how many people actually shocked themselves. It was something like 65 to 70% of men and somewhere around 35 to 40% of women. And so this is an amazing example of how we do not enjoy our own peace of solitude. And what I want to point out is this is an ego struggling to be content in its own silence. What was learned from this experiment, and what you can witness in your own direct experiment, is that the ego is either in one or two states. It's either in a state of busyness and staying busy, staying occupied, and therefore it is somewhat offline, not giving you agitation. So as long as you stay busy, you will find somewhat a content experience in that. But where it gets sad is that the moment you want to take a break and rest in peace and silence, the ego does not enjoy that, because the ego does not exist in silence. It doesn't exist in the here and now. And so it sends agitation tendencies and urges throughout you to move, to get out of the silence, and to remove yourself from the solitude of just being. And so these are the two modes of ego. It's either busy or it's irritated in silence. And hence an earlier comment I had in one of my earlier videos, I just said something like, if you're not busy in this country, you're not being successful. You're not working as hard as you can to be successful. And what I meant about that is that it's not the busyness that I'm trying to point to. It's why are you busy? From an egoic point of view, you are busy because you're so-called running from the silence and stillness. And that's where it gets unfortunate, right? It's saying that the ego it just can't be at peace. It does not know peace and stillness. And so it's not the busyness that is the negative piece here. It is why you're busy. And so when you step back into yourself, right? Self doesn't have states. It doesn't have on or off or this state or that state, right? Self is not a state of mind. It's a way of being, and that is permanence. Self is permanent peace. and stillness and silence and the absence of agitation and solitude. And when you step back into self and rest in self and experience yourself, so as all of these permanent, beautiful attributes of yourself, you then can look back into what we used to say, what was busy in our life, and actually enjoy them for what they truly are, these amazing experiences of life. But you perceive this so-called, what we used to say is busy, would be now these amazing experiences of life. You experience that from the permanent contentment of yourself. And so it's not being busy. But why are you busy? Because you're running from silence. You're running from total contentment. And that's what self delivers. As you move back towards self and ego starts to dissolve, you will recognize this overwhelming, in a way, of peace, overwhelming peace. I mean, who doesn't want that? So, again, just watch your mind. Watch it. It doesn't like here and now. It doesn't like peace. It doesn't like stillness. So it's going to have you move. It's going to create these urges within you to want to move and quote unquote stay busy. And so I encourage you to experience life fully from the so-called press box of in the sky, this beautiful realm of yourself. Take care.